So we're getting ready to leave on day 4. I got the bikes all packed and everything, and we ventured out and found some breakfast before we loaded up the bikes, and we ended up eating at a little kind of greasy spoon place that was just a couple of doors down from our hotel. It's called the Brown Cow, and it's just a little breakfast joint, and it's exactly what we needed. Just a good basic breakfast, and we were good to go for the day here. We ran into some motorcyclers, or fellow bikers, whatever you want to call it, while we were here. While we were waiting for a table, we ran into a group of people who had ridden up from New Jersey on their Harleys, and they were riding back home, and I guess they had a pretty good journey up coming up this way. And then we ran into an actual biker gang, so to speak, or as the lady in the bed and breakfast called it. We ran into the Seabrook, New Hampshire chapter of the Rolling Thunder Motorcycle Club. If you're not familiar with the Rolling Thunder Motorcycle Club, I think they're a countrywide motorcycle club, and they ride to bring awareness to veterans issues like POWs, MIA, and disabled vets, things like that. We talked with some of those guys. They seemed pretty nice, and we were just chit-chatting with them on the way out the door when we were all waiting to pay. And like I said, they seemed like a pretty nice group of guys, and they had ridden up that way, and I think we're heading back to New Hampshire. And we also chatted with some locals while we were there too. And one thing I will say about Newport, totally different vibe than what we got from Putney. So when we were in Putney, like I had mentioned, it was kind of standoffish and a little weird. Newport was very welcoming. This is a place I would come back to in a heartbeat. It's absolutely beautiful. There's a lot of farmland. There's a beautiful lake here. Lake Manfred Magog is beautiful. I've fished there before, and I'd love to come back and do it again. And obviously, we really enjoyed our restaurant. We just really enjoyed our stay here. It was a really, really nice place to stay, and it's a place that we probably will come back to someday just to spend some more time here. But from here, it's time to get back on the road and start heading south. So day 4 riding has been pretty good. We've had good weather so far. The morning was cool, but actually pretty nice. And as the morning's worn on, it's starting to get a little bit overcast, which we kind of knew was going to happen because we're expecting potentially some rain a little later in the day. So as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit overcast. We spent a lot more time today on the pavement than we did off the pavement, which is a departure from what we've been doing before. Main reason for that is we took a couple of wrong turns and got ourselves a little bit lost. We're following the GPS, and somehow it didn't alert us to a turn we had to make, and we completely missed it. And then it started rerouting, and things just got a little crazy. So we had to stop, figure out where we were, and then figure out a way to go to get back on track so we could get back on our intended route. So one other thing I should probably mention is, once again, I'm having microphone problems with my voice recorder. Hers is working perfectly fine, but mine has the audio level so low that it's completely unusable. So not sure what's going on there. I thought I had that figured out, but apparently not. And you won't be able to hear any conversation from us on this day either. So we're now in Stowe, Vermont, which is a pretty good distance from where we started. And as I mentioned before, we did a lot of more road today, so we covered a lot more miles quicker than we normally would have. We decided to not stop in downtown Stowe because it was so busy, and we figured we're just going to kind of ride through here. And riding through, we found some more dirt, and looks like a lot of places to go off and hike, which it's too bad we didn't have time to do any of that. But we did find a interesting place to stop. We stopped at this place that looks like they sold espresso, and we saw the sign, and Jen's like, "Ooh, espresso!" She was really kind of jonesing for a coffee at that point, and we decided to pull in. And according to the signs that you'll see here, not only do they sell espresso, but they also sell maple syrup and marijuana. So quite the interesting combo of things to sell: coffee, pot, and maple syrup. All they needed to do was add ammo and gas, and they would have been perfect. We go inside, and come to find out, they only sell the marijuana part. They didn't have the espresso. We never asked about the maple syrup. So don't know if they actually sold that or not, but they didn't have what we actually went there for, so kind of was what it was. We still took a break anyway, and had some water and some cheese sticks, and carried on our way. Well, today we've ran into the first really kind of weather of the whole trip. As we're getting closer to Montpelier, it's starting to rain. And from the forecast that we've seen on our phone, it's going to continue to do that for the rest of the day. So we decided that we were once again going to bail on camping and try to find a place to stay and someplace dry. So looking on the map, we thought about staying in Montpelier here, but decided that that was going to be too many miles to drive to get back into Massachusetts the following day. So we decided to keep pushing south and try to stay somewhere near, like, around the Woodstock area if we could. So we kind of did more road than dirt from here on out, and it was probably good that we did, because it actually started raining pretty steady and it was very raw, and we weren't cold, but it still wasn't the most pleasant conditions to be riding in. In my case, I really wish I had a different pair of gloves. That was my biggest gripe. The gloves I have are leather, and they got soaked and not waterproof. Nothing I could do about that. I do own some waterproof gloves, but I actually don't like them, so I didn't even bring them with me. And kind of feel like that was a mistake. Thankfully, we have heated grips on these bikes, because otherwise my hands would have been absolutely frozen. The rest of us we were both fine. We have good gear. It's dry, and we had no issues there at all. So once again, the cameras have dead batteries in them. And this time it was completely my fault. I did not change the batteries in Montpelier when we should have. I knew they were going to die. But since we were just riding on wet, rainy roads, I didn't think it was worth it. And I didn't want to stop to change them, so I didn't. But we did make it down to Woodstock, where we had planned to go. And our kind of goal when we got here was to just find the first hotel that we could and see if they had a room for us. And if they did, that's where we were going to stay. And the first hotel that we ran into was this place here called the Woodstock Inn and Resort. If you're not familiar with this place, I would suggest Googling it, and you can get a little info on it. But the Cliff Notes is it's probably one of the highest end hotels in Vermont. It's a historical hotel. It's very expensive and exclusive. But they had a room for us, and they gave us a heck of a deal on it because it was Sunday night on a holiday weekend, and I'm pretty sure they knew that, they weren't going to sell this to anybody else, so better to rent the room than not rent the room. So they gave us a really good price on it, and we took it. We stayed here. The thing that makes it really interesting is, the clientele that normally stays here isn't riding up on dirty, muddy motorcycles. They're driving, high-end, expensive luxury automobiles. I mean, when we pulled into the parking lot, I think the cheapest vehicle we saw there was a, $90,000 Escalade. Everything else was, AMG Mercedes and M-Series Beamers and, a bunch of very, very high-end automobiles. And when we were parked underneath the valet parking or the unloading area where the bellhop is, the people walking out of the building to go to dinner looked horrified at what they saw. The two of us in muddy gear, and Jen walking into the building in muddy gear with her helmet still on, two muddy, little dirt bikes or motorcycles or whatever that were pretty grungy by this point. They were pretty horrified, and it was pretty funny. The bellhop that greeted us actually was really cool. He, I wish I knew his name because I'd call him out by name if I did, but he was super nice. And he ran into the building to check and see if they had a room for us so we didn't have to get off the bike and all that. And then him and I were talking, and he suggested that I, take the motorcycles and park them in the parking garage underneath the building. There was a little alcove where I could stuff them where a car wouldn't go. He told me they'd be, perfectly safe down there and, out of the weather and dry, which I really appreciated that. And he said it's not, normally it's not something they just let people park down there. It's like it costs extra and you got to, make plans to do it. But he's just like, put them down there, you'll be good. And, that way you can get them out of the weather and you're not getting on a wet motorcycle in the morning. And like I said, I really appreciated that. I thought it was pretty cool. We kind of got some of the same horrified looks when we walked through the lobby. And, that was because we're, once again, still in our muddy gear. And, we didn't have luggage. We had saddlebags. So we have the saddlebags off the bike and, all of our stuff that we're bringing in. And, we looked like we were homeless, basically. And I can only imagine the people there were like, either these people are homeless or they're, the eccentric billionaires that are just out having a good time. I can't imagine them thinking anything else. I mean, we're neither thing, but that's just the way I want to imagine it. But overall, we really liked this place. Our room was fabulous. It wasn't the biggest hotel room we've ever stayed in, but decoration-wise, it looked like it was straight out of a magazine, and it was a really nice room. We had these fancy matching robes and slippers that we could wear. As you can see, camping on day 4 was extremely difficult. We were roughing it. It was really, really hard. While we're here, we decided we needed some dinner, and they have a couple of restaurants on site. So we wanted to see if we could get into one of them. They say reservations recommended and all that. But we decided let's try this, and worst case we'll get room service because we really weren't equipped to go out to a restaurant in town. Jen didn't really have much with her as far as footwear goes. She had slippers or motorcycle boots. Those were her options. And, for clothes, we didn't really have a lot either. So there were 2 restaurants on site that were open. There was a kind of a tavern type place, informal tavern, and they have a formal restaurant. The tavern, they had no reservations and no availability. They were full, so that was out for us. But the formal restaurant could seat us immediately, so we decided we were going to eat there. And yeah, we certainly were not dressed for the occasion. I was wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and some hiking boots, and Jen was in some leggings and a fleece sweater and slippers. I mean, that's how we went into this restaurant. And they stuck us in a room in the corner by ourselves. So that's how much we fit in. It was kind of interesting. Now, as far as the restaurant goes, the food was fantastic. We had an appetizer of this pasta and sauce, kind of like gnocchi, but not made out of potato. I forget what they're called. I've seen them on cooking shows before. These things were fantastic. I never even had a chance to take a picture of the actual appetizer. We just ate it, and then I took a picture of the empty plate. It was delicious. And for dinner, Jen had, I think this was some sort of veal shank that she had. She didn't remember exactly what it was. And we have this nice fuzzy picture of it, but that's about it. And I had a filet mignon, which was absolutely cooked perfectly, and it was delicious. We also had a couple drinks, and we had this maple cake dessert that was also fantastic. Everything we had here was fantastic. The food was great. Very expensive, but very, very good. I think the food cost more than the room did, which is kind of surprising. I think under normal circumstances it wouldn't have, but tonight it did. From here, we just we kind of went back to our room and relaxed for a little while. I will make a comment that this hotel was a really nice place to stay. And I'll touch on this again probably, when we're leaving. But the staff here was so nice. Everybody. The bellhop was awesome. The people at the desk were nice. Everybody we interacted with was super duper nice. And it was a very nice experience. And we actually got a survey a couple of days after we got home from the hotel, and Jen explicitly mentioned how great the staff was and how helpful everybody was and how pleasant everybody was. And they actually responded to her, said thank you, because a lot of times they don't hear compliments about their staff. It's like people don't, they compliment the hotel, but they don't think to compliment the people that make it great. And it's the staff that makes it great. So if you are ever in Vermont and have a chance to stay here and have the means to stay here, I highly recommend it. I would totally come back here again. I know, they do other things here too, like they do golf tours and fishing tours, and come to find out from my sister, they do falconry, which I had no idea what falconry was until my sister told me. I've renamed it bird wrangling because I have zero interest in it. But it's an interesting place, and we definitely would stay here again. It was pretty cool. But yeah, we went back to the room, relaxed for a little while, and just got ready for another long day on day 5.